Cool. Well, I just definitely want to be honorable of your time. Earl, can you let the people know who Earl Martin is? All right. And what services he provides all the way in Charlotte?
Okay, so let's see. Who is Earl Martin? I am a licensed clinical social worker here in Charlotte, North Carolina. On my own private practice that I do on a part time called Innate Virtue Counseling. So who do I serve? I serve black and brown people, but my go-to, my heart are black people who identify as LGBTQIA plus. Trauma work. I'm really big in trauma work and just kind of like helping people find who they are inside. So innately. So finding you, unlocking it, and just living your best life.
Oh, yes. Love it. Everybody's like, yes, Earl. They love the book in the back. Oh, yes. Let me say hi to everybody at this moment.
How
Please, if
y'all
y'all have any
doing?
questions, please make sure that you are dropping them in the question section. Hey, Adrian. That way we can be able to read them because the chat moves really quickly on these lives. So, Earl, I'm super excited to have this conversation because, healing is so important along the therapeutic journey. And we understand that healing takes steps. It's a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. So how do you help your particular target focus, LGBTQI plus community, work through the essence of healing? Because
Hmm.
understandably, so many people deal with like feelings of abandonment, feeling ostracized, feeling misjudged, a lot of hate crimes, and so on. And so,
Hmm.
how do you help individuals work through that?
I think one is providing a space and the opportunity to name it. Oftentimes we're told what you think, what you feel is not adequate or is not real or you're not supposed to feel that. So a lot of my time I'm really big on experiential work. So that's like
Mhm.
doing activities and things like talk therapy is amazing, yes. But I like to do things that's gonna allow you to go and experience the feeling, allow you to unlock it. Because a lot of times we have emotional blocks from our childhood or whatever have you, what has happened that you don't even realize what you're feeling, but also doing activities that connect you with your body. A lot of times people don't realize that your body is your soul talking to you. Your body's trying to tell you. Like, so when you're having backaches and stomach aches, it's not you might be sick. It's probably you're stressed, you're overwhelmed, or you have anxiety. Like, that's your body trying to communicate with you. So for me, it's connecting you with your body and allowing you the space to be heard and recognize
Mhm.
like this is all about you. So starting there first and then
Yeah.
allowing you to have the tools so we can start diving into that trauma or those experiences. And just because the thing about trauma is that you're just trying to manage it. And so when
Mhm.
we have these traumatic experiences and it affects us, it's just because it's been amplified. It's out of your control. But a whole part of the healing journey is you getting that control back and recognize like I'm not gonna be hijacked by my feelings. I'm in charge. I'm gonna run this and I'm gonna control this. So
I love that integrative approach that you take because I think a lot of people have this misunderstanding that the body is separate from the mind or one is more important than the other. And it's important to understand that one influences the other and vice versa. We cannot sit up here and treat the mind and not ultimately think that it's not going to show up in the body. And
right.
one thing that I really love about you when I was scrolling through your page and whatnot, you have a number of books that you recommend and suggest to your followers. I'm big on bibliotherapy. So what that looks like is like books or like reading columns or articles and whatnot, allowing
Hmm.
people to be able to feel this connection, not only with me, but with the person who wrote the material because it shows them that they're not alone. And so what are some other materials that you provide to your individuals, your clients?
So books all day. As you can see behind me, I keep a good book. But also I like to do, like I said, I was talking about connecting people to body. So oftentimes in my sessions, when I'm first getting to know someone and understanding like their history of like, are you really aware of your feelings and trying to unlock emotional blocks? I like to do a chalk outline of just the body. And I will literally like name what are the 8 to 10 feelings that you just feel on a regular, whether that's numb, because that is a feeling, anger, confusion, stress, excitement. Like I want to know where it all is. And once we name that, I will have them kind of like I said, doing like experiential work kind of go back to a time where that feeling is most amplified or where you think about it and listen to where it falls on your body and then we'll shade it in on the body and kind of connect it because oftentimes people don't realize you might have these points in your body where all these feelings connect and collide together. For
Mhm.
instance, I know someone where they feel stress but then it goes into anger and confusion. It's just like a T. So like
Yes.
recognizing what these feel on your body, because if you listen and can connect to where your feelings are coming up in your body, you are now can understand, okay, what does my body need? And that now helps you create the coping skill and like the activity that you need. So if you know in my body, myself, when I get angry, I feel it in my legs, in my feet and things, and I know a need for me is to move. So that's why I'm like, I'll start doing running or whatever. I'm dancing, like things that's keeping that area activated and active to allow those feelings to flush out. So it's just kind of listening and connecting and finding the need, because that's all it is. Like I said, your body and your soul is talking to you.
Yes, love it. And that's very important too, especially when we're working with clients who have significant trauma history in relation to like sexual abuse or maybe even physical abuse and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. So getting them comfortable with even talking about it, but also getting them very connected to the somatic experience overall.
Right.
I absolutely love it. And I meant to, I know we've been talking a lot of counselor jargon, a lot of, clinical social worker jargon, but for anybody who doesn't know what trauma is a distress response to something that is life-changing or life-threatening in nature. And so that's what we're going to talk about, especially when it comes to the LGBTQI plus community, because we see a number of instances like threats and violence and a lot of like history of sexual abuse amongst that. And so for me, I work with individuals with male sexual trauma. That is my jam. I absolutely love doing that. And I kind of do like the chalk version a little bit. I get like a sheet of paper with like a silhouette of a
Yep.
person, and
Mm-hmm.
I give them crayons, and I'm like, blue is sadness, purple is fear, green is like joy, whatever the case may be. And I just give them an array of emotions, and I ask them to take the crayon and color in where that emotion shows up in the body.
Yeah.
And then like doing stuff like that. So me and you were on the same key. I love it.
And I want to actually, you just reminded me. So oftentimes people don't always know what they're feeling either. So you can ask somebody, it's like, well, I don't know. I don't know. That's a big, I don't do I don't knows in my session. So I also
Right.
like to use this feelings wheel,
Mm-hmm.
because all these feelings listed, you could pick something out of that. And also like recognizing when we're kids, we're mainly taught like five core feelings, like, okay, you angry, sad, scared, mad. But it's so much deeper, and like recognizing like there are feelings subcategories of that. So like even if you're feeling judgmental or critical, that might be tied to anger. Or if you're feeling confused, that's all tied to like anxiety or scare. Like all those are tied to different things. So like breaking it down and kind of dissecting the feeling so you can recognize, okay, what is it that you're feeling? Because again, feelings are tied to a need. So, and once you identify it, you can recognize, okay, what do I need to do in this moment with these feelings?
Yes, I want to hone in on that word need, because sometimes we may not even know what we're feeling, but we also struggle with identifying what our actual needs are.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so important. Once we get the client to a place of being able to identify how they can work towards that ideal self or work towards their treatment goals, I think that's super beneficial, especially after somebody who has dealt with significant amounts of trauma, or they found themselves dealing with identity related issues or
Yeah.
struggling with esteem. And so how do you help clients identify their needs?
So let's see, identifying needs. First, I'll go off like, what were you taught? So, like, how were you taught to even manage your feelings? Because oftentimes, people, they don't even know that they can be angry. They have this
Yeah.
one concept of this is what anger looks like, or this is what somebody told them your anger is supposed to look like. Or they're even told anger is not a normal feeling. And I always tell people there's no such thing as a good or a bad feeling. All feelings are normal. It's normal to be sad sometimes. It's normal to be angry. But it's really about what do you do with it. Now, if you're going around punching holes in the wall or going off on people, that is not a healthy way. But if you're doing activities like even controlled destruction, so here in Charlotte, there's a purge room where you get to go in a controlled space, break
Yeah.
glass, kind of release. That's healthy. Like finding those healthy ways and recognize. Also, like finding your needs is kind of like dating yourself. So you should be trying different things, different activities. This might not. This might take your need level to a 3 versus this might fill it up completely to a 10. But like trying this different activities. So I'm always about like, well, what are you doing? What are you trying?
Mhm.
Let's create a list of different things that you have an idea of like, oh, well, that seems interesting, or this is something I always thought about. Let's try it because it might replace or fill a need that you're having. So it's always about like what's worked, what hasn't worked, what have you seen, what have you been taught, and just exploring all of those.
Yes, 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 yes. Love it. So I want to go back to our other topic with relation to sexuality, because I think
Hmm.
that's a topic that a lot of people like to skate by, or are like feeling as though it's taboo, or they feel like it's an area that they can't necessarily touch. And
Right.
so I know for me, when it comes to dealing with sexuality, sometimes I have clients who know exactly where they fall on the spectrum. They already have like whatever word that they associate with and whatnot. And
Hmm.
so I do want to educate the public really quickly, even though we know the LGBTQI plus community. We also have gender, sexual, romantic minorities. That's the new term that is out
Hmm.
there. And reason being is because we understand that, like, you can add kink into the mix, or you can add, polyamorous into the mix, all of that stuff. And so I know with clients, especially here in the Bible Belt, sexuality is a huge issue. We saw that happen, unfortunately, with the whole thing when it comes to whether or not sex addiction is a real thing and whatnot. And so helping clients explore what sexuality looks like for them. And then also, like you mentioned, the stigmas in relation to it and the fears of exploring it based upon where they came from, whether it's like ethnicity, or even when it comes to like family constructs and everything like that. But how do you
Hmm.
help clients explore sexuality?
So again, everything goes back to childhood. But really, like, what messages were you taught? Because a lot of time, like, we have to, like, I'm glad you even brought up Bible Belt. So, like, myself, I'm a black gay male from the South, and all those intersectionalities and like what that looks like in messages that you might receive, not directly but indirectly. Um, Church trauma is real. Parental trauma, like learning all those. So for me, I always go to what messages were you told, because a lot of times when we hear or see how people treat others, we internalize that, and that in itself creates a message of, oh, I'm not right, I'm not okay, something is wrong with me. So like exploring that, but also exploring like where have you seen on the other side of like the positivity, like have you seen a healthy, if you let's say gay, a healthy gay relationship, have you seen is what media, what have the media shown you? So like books, I'm always going back to books of like, it's important to hear the stories of others because it can help you kind of navigate through your own story.
Yeah.
So that also recognizing like when it is a spectrum, and but also recognize like it's okay if you're figuring it out. That's the whole part of questioning in the education, like figuring out like what you like, what you don't like, and realize it's okay to explore. I think that's the biggest thing is like exploration is okay. You figuring out what's best, what you like, going back to even the needs, but going to like figuring out what you like and what works.
Yes. I love the fact that you basically brought up how representation matters. A friend of mine's, they were discussing how it's a struggle with navigating the corporate scene because of the lack of representation in terms of like Black
Hmm.
gay men in corporate and whatnot. And so struggling in that area, I just find it to be very important to identify the positives, like you mentioned, because oftentimes like heavy hitting with the stigmas, you begin to question who you are as an individual, or kind of feel as though you're not standing on solid ground to be able to advocate for yourself efficiently and effectively.
Yeah. And I think like for me, also just recognizing like representation, but also finding your tribe. I think it's so important to find your tribe and recognize like, yes, growing up, we might experience things where it's like, oh, I feel like I'm alone. These people don't get me or whatever. But like being able to recognize like there are people out there that cares in your chosen family, even if your family that you have born with is amazing. Your chosen family is just it's a different type of experience. Like when you get to go out and pick your people. So I
Yeah.
always lean on like find people that's going to support you and love you.
Yes, yes, yes. Even when we were talking about chosen family, it reminds me of how I explain to clients the relationship onion, how on the outside is strangers, and then you have like associates and on
Hmm.
the side, friends, and then family. Family is what you make of it, whether bloodborne or the ones that you choose. And then, at
Right.
this, it's just us, like that intimacy level. It all goes back to, like you said, identifying your needs and spending time with yourself and getting comfortable with exploring that aspect, building that intimacy with yourself.
Yeah. And just like recognize like we have to remove the messages. So like all these cognitive distortions and negative thinking. Like I always tell people, if you're gonna come up with the worst case, you better do the best case. And let's find it in the middle. Like don't because you can get so caught up in this whirlpool of my life or this or just negativity, it can feel like a weight. So I'm always like, the only way to build that muscle of positivity is like you have to be intentional about, if I just said something negative to myself, I better come up with a positive. It's intention.
Yes, 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 yes. That muscle of positivity. That is so key
Hmm.
because it's just like when we have a coping skill in place, right? I think
Yeah.
oftentimes we just think that that coping skill is going to be used once and it's going to stick forever. Like this whole journey is a practice run, right? Until it gets
Yeah.
right. That is so dope. I love it.
And even going back to like coping skills, even the ones that are unhealthy, it was a coping skill. So I always tell people like, even the things that you might deem are negative, it helped you at a point. It helped you
Mhm.
survive and get to what you needed to, but now you have to recognize like it doesn't have a place anymore. So it's just like the negative things or unhealthy things you learned that. And that's why it
Yeah.
became such a like, oh, this is my go-to. So just like you have to learn and build that muscle around the healthy things, it's all about attention.
Yes, yes. Being intentional about switching from surviving to thriving and getting
Yes.
the other side of it and building resiliency. That is so key. Because unfortunately, like I mentioned, I work in the substance abuse space. And so oftentimes in active addiction, people are so ridden with guilt and shame for the things that they've done. And I'm like,
Mm,
understandably, addiction will have you doing some wild things, but at the end of the day, you're still here. You're on the other side of it. And so,
yes.
know better, you do better. You just don't have to stay there. And it's just, we have to, like you said, challenge those cognitive distortions and remember that we don't have to stay there. Like there's so much
Yes.
ahead.
And it made me think, 'cause so in my full-time position, I do domestic violence work and trauma around that. And just like that same message of like, you don't have to stick around for it. Like you have to find that new positive and like recognize who you are and like that you don't have to stick in this space, even outside of the abuse, but like the abuse you might be putting on yourself of that shame and that guilt.
Yes, yes, yes. Speaking of spaces, new spaces, how can clients work to develop their own personal healing spaces outside of the therapy room?
Outside of the therapy room. So going back to the experiential exercise that I do, when I'm sitting with clients and allowing them to unlock emotional blocks, I always say I'll guide them through like this guided meditation and ask, when you think of a place that makes you happy or peaceful, what's the first thing comes to mind? And they might do like a whole bunch of things, but like create that space, because the first space needs to be your mental space. So like wherever you are, even when you're in a stressful situation, whether it's work, school, you should be able to go into that space where you are feeling positive and protected. And once you have that here, then start creating that space around you. So that might also look like changing your friend group or changing that workspace or changing your home space, like making it more positive. Like it's not just about the physical space, it's about the emotional, all of that. So just starting there. But first, I'm always like mental. Where is your go-to? Because everything's gonna be here first, and then pushing it out, kind of like the onion, but going from inner to the out.
Yes. Do you ever get any resistance when clients are just like, I'm not
Oh,
about to change
child,
my friends even though they toxic. I'm not
all the
about to leave
time, and
mama
not all the
alone.
time. And I'm a real direct person. So I'll sit there like I love. I tell people therapy is not what you see on the TV. I'm a cursing therapist. I curse. I curse my clients. Like we're gonna talk. So I'm always like, okay. I said you're gonna push back. You're gonna hate me. It's okay. Like but I always ask my clients at the end of every session, what didn't work? What did work? Do you need me to push you, or do you want me to take a seat back? Because it's you. I want to say this showboat and you drive it, but Megan Thee Stallion stole my stuff. I've been saying this for years. But this is your ship. You're the captain. I'm just here helping you. So what do you need? So most of the time they'll be like, oh, I don't know. And I'll tell them, well, you do know because you already did. The hardest thing is by showing up here.
Yes.
So you can do this. And then they end up doing it. It just you just need a little push.
Ooh, they don't like that saying. You do know. It's like, hey, you're right. I do know.
You know good and well you don't need to be in these toxic friendships, but it's okay. And if you go back, I also recognize that you're a human. So if you go back and still deal with some of these situations, I'm not expecting you to come in here today and then next week I gonna did all this healing. It's not that quick because all the unhealthiness didn't happen overnight. That took years, so it's gonna take some years to address some of these situations.
Yes, 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 yes. I know we talked a little bit briefly, kind of broke down what trauma is for individuals who don't know what it is, but I also want to speak to other individuals who may not understand like gender, sexual, romantic minorities and whatnot. what are some ways that we can personally support our friends within that particular population, within that subdomain, understanding like everybody is human and everybody has just whatever it is that they're dealing with. So how can we specifically support the LGBTQI plus community?
I think one, looking at your circle, is your circle diverse? Addressing your implicit bias. So people are like, I support everybody. I'm encouraging everybody. But are you really like sit down and when you think about certain groups, like what's popping up in your head? Because everybody has implicit bias. Like it's natural. But what are you doing to address it? Also, research. Google is free. Google real things like learn, watch documentaries, ask questions respectfully, but also don't put it on them to teach you, because there is so much material out there, and that's even past LGBTQIA issues. That's Black issues, even the issues that's going on. Don't expect the person that's being oppressed or experiencing these hardships to now turn around and be like, well, let me pause what I'm feeling to teach you. No,
Exactly.
it's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff out there that's research based that you can learn, but it's okay to ask questions as long as they're appropriate. And it's so much material. Even like watching shows, documentaries, Paris is Burning, polls, like just being able to recognize like there's a whole perspective. It's not just this media created like this one experience. Because I even tell people, especially like Black gay men, we're not a monolith. Black people, we're not a monolith, but there's not one type of gay, there's not one type of straight, there's not one type of anything. So just starting there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I have other clinicians who go back and listen to this audio and whatnot, and you already know, like, we are really big on continuing education. I definitely encourage any clinician out there to be intentional about the continuing education that you take, especially when it comes to inclusivity. So, like you pointed out, we as Black people, we are not a monolith. And so please find ways, even if you don't agree with everything that's going on, please find ways to make sure that you're educating yourself, because at the end of the day, we are here to serve. Like, we're servant leaders. Like, as therapists, like, that's what we do. So, yeah.
And it's so many trainings, like you said, free trainings at that. Like everything doesn't cost money. And it's a lot of these organizations offer the free trainings because they want people to be like, you can ask the questions. So going to Transgender 101 trainings, going to Time Out. So here in Charlotte, there's this organization called Time Out Youth for helping LGBTQIA plus teens. But like they have safe zone trainings. It's like going to trainings and it's 101. So you get to ask those questions. No question is dumb. But also just, I think the biggest thing is respect. So if someone even going to like gender identity and non-binary, if someone is asking you to call them something, do it. Like, what's the hesitation? I'm thinking about even growing up as Black people, you know how many nicknames we have? Most of us don't even go by our real name. So what is again, that's that implicit bias. What is your issue with addressing someone with how they want to be addressed because they don't want you to call them by the sex they were assigned at birth or the name they were assigned, you know? So it's like going back, reflection. Reflection is everything.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. I really do appreciate that. Let the people know what you got going on.
Oh, Lord. So right now, I have a podcast called Hats Off Podcast. We're not currently doing new episodes right now, but we have 4 seasons, so you can go and check all that out. And what it is my colleague Courtney and I think you were meeting with her last week. We pretty much 2 therapists giving our perspective, trying to break the stigma down in Black men's in the Black community around mental health. And what we do is we'll give you a therapist standpoint, but we take our hats off and give you the real as well. Let's see what else I got going on right now. Courtney actually created a group a few weeks ago called A Haven for Healers. So for my therapists on here, it's for Black therapists to come and just have a space. Carrying Black stress and struggles as a Black individual and trying to help heal is stressful and tiring. So having that space to come here with us, I currently do the men's group. I lead the Black men's group every Thursday. So right before I got on here with you, I did that from 6:15 to 7:45. So we just did, it's a 6 weeks. We will be doing another round in some months to come. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I got a lot going on.
That's why I give this space to the healers to just shout out, because we all got a lot going on. So Please. All right, y'all. If y'all have any questions, please make sure that you're dropping them in the chat. I know you guys are
Yeah.
coming up and whatnot. For Earl, while we're waiting on questions, please let the people know where they can find you, your website, and everything.
Yes, so my Instagram is Earl Martin LCSW. My website is earlmartinlcsw.com. You can find me on Facebook at ooh, wow, Earl Martin dash Innate Virtue Counseling PLLC, and that is my private practice, Innate Virtue Counseling. And I'm here located in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yes, and with everything being, you take virtual clients too, right? Or no?
Ooh, yeah, that's all I'm taking. COVID is alive and real, y'all. It is still here and real. So private practice is all virtual for me at this current moment. I gave that office space up, but my full time, where I do domestic violence, that is in person and virtual. But private practice is it's all here on this good laptop. As of now, for the time being, I am ready to get back to an office space because I miss in person sessions. But safety first, y'all.
Yes, understandable. Do what you got to do, okay? So for
Mm,
anybody who is in the state of North Carolina, all right, it doesn't matter what county you're in, please hit up Earl. Please make sure that you
yes,
get out and get your services, okay? Well, if we don't have any questions, Earl, thank you so much for your time and your
of
wisdom and insight.
course.
Appreciate it.
Thank you
Okay?
for having me.
Of course. Have an amazing evening.
You too. Y'all have a good night.